This is your standard leader format. Your leader includes the arrow that's attached to it. The arrow can be changed. The line that's typically at an angle, the landing, and the text. So I want to make sure you understand how you can modify these objects and change it into an arrow that we are going to be using for our cutting plane line. So under your home, if you're on home, you're going to switch over to annotate. When you go to the annotate, we're looking for the little pull down menu for your multi-leader style manager. The multi-leader style manager allows us to create new styles of leaders. So this one that we're showing right here is our standard format. When we look at that, we can click on modify. We can change some different things. We can go to leader format. We can, like I said, we can change the ending. We can make it a solid dot and update it to have a dot on the end instead of the the arrowhead. So it's a pretty cut and dry dialog box where you can change things. You can change the size of the arrowhead. You can update that, and there we go. Back to the modification. We can change where the text is located. We can change the type of text. We can add balloons to our numbers and use those as a number for a parts list. We can change the size of our tag. So just endless things that we can do with this. So it's good to get familiar with these options. This will be the first time you have a need to change something. So I'm going to just close out of that, and we're going to talk about creating a new arrow type for our cutting plane line. So I'm going to go back to this multi-leader, and I'm going to start with the standard, and I'm going to click on new, and it copies the existing standard type, and we're allowed to rename it here. So since I've already done this one time on this drawing, I'm just going to put cutting plane 2. You can just put cutting plane 1, or not even have to put a 1 on there, and it'll be the start. So I'm going to continue here. I'm going to leave my arrow the same. I am going to make sure I do want that to be 0.18 because I do want I want the leader to stand out just a little bit because it is a cutting plane line, and it also has a very thick line type or line weight, so I want to make sure that that arrow shows up. The second thing I want to change is I want to get rid of this landing. So on the second tab under leader structure, I'm going to unselect that, and you can see that the landing goes away. The last thing I'm going to do is go over here to the M-text, and I'm going to go to none, and that's going to get rid of the text. So all I'm left now with is a line with an arrow on it, and that's what I want. So I'm going to switch back over to my cutting plane layer, and now I'm going to use the multi-leader command, which is also over here under your annotation. So if you click on leader and you now point, the first point that you start is going to be the end of the arrowhead, and I'm going to just make sure I have ortho on, and I'm going to pull that leader. So if you notice as you pull the line, if it's not a very long line, it's going to keep the line solid, but as the line gets longer and it can then fit in the dashes for the phantom line, you will then see a phantom line drawn. Now I'm going to turn on the show hide line weight so I can see that thickness there. So depending on the size of your drawing and what you're doing, you may have the extra lines and you may not. I like to have the cutting plane line about a half of an inch outside the part. I'm just going to real quickly offset that circle a half of an inch so I have a starting and stopping place for my line. I'm going to draw a line from the top to the bottom, and then I'm going to erase this. Okay, I'm going to now use my multi-leader, and I'm going to make sure, and let me go over to annotate. If you look at this little block right here, this will tell you what style it's using, so you can toggle back and forth between different styles that you have set up. So I'm using the cutting plane 2, that's the one I just created, but later on when I'm dimensioning this, I may need to switch back over and use the standard multi-leader style. So you have that option to toggle back and forth. Alright, so I'm going to use the multi-leader. I'm going to point to this. I'm not going to click. I'm just pointing. So I'm going to use my OSNAP settings to drag out, and I'm going to find the location. I don't want to go all the way out past the part. I'm going to go about halfway in between the distance of the end and where my cutting plane starts. So I'm going to draw that line there, and that's what I've got. And I might as well go ahead and finish this off by copying it to the bottom. So I like to copy it so then that way I have the exact same length at the top and the bottom. So that is your cutting plane line, and I'm going to double check that dimension. It needs to be about a half of an inch. That looks a little, there you go, it is a half inch. So anyway, there's the part. I probably could have gotten away with about a quarter of an inch there, but I said half, so that's okay. Going to the dimension, I want to put an A right here to signify that this is a section A-A. So I'm using dimensions. This is the dimension layer where I'm going to have my text. I'm going to draw myself a text box window. I want to verify that the text is 0.125. I have the Arial font, and I want to make sure that my caps lock is on. And I'm going to type a capital A. I'm going to move that A down to the corner, turning my ortho off. I'm using the F8 button to turn that off. And now I'm going to copy this A from right here down to the bottom. So I've got two A's, and that signifies that the cross section is A-A. This is a full section, so I am going to continue and label my section over here that's not complete. But we're going to call this section A-A. So with the text box open, type in section A-A, and I like to center my text on the part. So there we go. So I have this as kind of like the drawing. I have a few more things I need to do to finish this up, and I'll go ahead and do this now. I do need to make sure I put section lines over here in my cutout, so I want to switch to the section line layer. I'm now going to click on the hatch button. The hatch button is going to create the ANSI 31 pattern. It is the default, so it will automatically pop up with the ANSI 31 highlighted. You need to select inside of the boundary that you wish to hatch. Remember that the ANSI 31 lines or the section lines represent where you actually have material. So this has a hole that's cut out through the middle of it, so there's no need for section lines in the middle, just where we have the actual material that is cut with the cutting plane line. So I'm going to close out of that. My arrowheads are pointing in the direction, or the direction of the line of sight. So if we were to cut this part and rotate it 90 degrees, this is what we would see on the inside. The last thing I need to do is finish up my center lines. So I'm going to switch to my center line layer. I'm going to start with the center line over here for the section, and I'm going to click on center line, and I'm going to pick these two lines here to generate a center line in the middle. And then I'm going to pick on the blue box, I'm going to drag that over to my new point, which is that right there, leaving the extension at about 1/8 of an inch for the center line past the object line. Over here, I have another center line. So I typically use the center mark command in this application. However, when I do that, you can see that I now have a center line and a cutting plane line intersecting. So I want to make sure that I drag that line down to where I don't see that. I'm just trying to drag that down as far as I can. I'm going to go back over here, pull that all the way in. And then that way I don't see the two lines overlapping in my phantom line. I could also avoid using the center mark command. I could have just drawn a basic center line from one side to the other and then extended it 1/8 of an inch past my object. But I know I can stretch down that line, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it like that. So that's what you need to do to finish up your section. So hopefully you're able to take the entire part from a regular drawing into a full section.